longest McPS meeting ever.
Yeah.
Good.
We are live and
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I am once again Council President Gabe Albornoz, and we will resume our council session today. And before we do, I want to read our Montgomery History Minutes. This is to once again recognize Women's History Month. This will be our last session before the end of the month, but I'm going to talk about Miss Odessa Shannon. Odessa Shannon was born on July 4th, 1928 to Gladys and Raymond McKenzie in Washington, D.C. She was educated in the public schools of Washington, graduating as valedictorian of her high school class. She received a Bachelor of Arts from Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts, graduating on the Dean's List. Shannon began her public career as a teacher in Baltimore public schools. Later, she entered the federal government in the computer field. She rose from the ranks to attain one of the highest non-political positions in senior executive service as National Program Director for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. As National Program Director, she was responsible for the operation of 49 field offices nationwide and the work sharing agreements with all of the state and local human rights agencies. Shannon was elected to the Montgomery County Board of Education in 1982. Her successful campaign marked the first election of an African American woman to a policy-making political position in the history of Montgomery County. After retiring from the federal government, Shannon was selected as special assistant to the county executive of Montgomery County, Mr. Charles Gilchrist, and Shannon was the first woman to hold this position. Later, she was deputy director of the Department of Family Resources. From 1995 to 2008, she was the executive director of the Montgomery County Human Rights Commission, previously the Human Relations Commission. And then, of course, she died tragically and sadly in March of 2020. And her daughter donated a portion of her papers and career scrapbook to Montgomery History Special Collection. And of course, we all celebrated as E. Brooke Lee Middle School was renamed in her honor last year and is now known as the Odessa Shannon Middle School. So that is our History Minutes for this month, recognizing Odessa, who many of us had the opportunity to work with and meet. And she was a trailblazer in every sense of the word, and she is still very much missed. So with that, we now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is a public hearing. And after the public hearing, colleagues, this is my fault, but we did not vote on our minutes. So we will do that after the public hearing. But this is a public hearing for a special appropriation to the county government's FY22 operating budget, Department of Health and Human Services, in the amount of $450,000 for a pediatric mobile medical vehicle. Source of funds is general fund reserves, and an amendment to the FY22 designation of entities for non-competitive grants award status to Casa Ruben Incorporated. We have 5 speakers for this public hearing, and I will ask them to come forward as they are able. Our first 3 public speakers will be doing so virtually. I remind each speaker that you have 2 minutes to speak, and we are still working out the kinks with the technology here before us, and so if there's an issue, we apologize in advance. But our first speaker is Ms. Tania Fuentes from Casa Ruben, and she will be testifying virtually. Ms. Fuentes, you are on.
Good afternoon, Council President Albornoz and council members. My name is Tania Perez Fuentes. I am a community member, mother of 5, an MCPS educator, as well as a vaccine hunter. I am here in favor of Dr. Ligia Peralta in Casa Ruben. I met Dr. Ligia Peralta early in 2021 during my work with the vaccine hunters. Casa Ruben quickly made themselves available for street outreach in the vaccination efforts. Dr. Peralta was vaccinating in parking lots, food trucks, laundromats, churches, festivals, wherever she was guided to the needs of vaccinations. She was answering medical questions whenever approached. Through my employment, I work with uninsured students, a vast majority with ignored medical needs. Casa Ruben held vaccination clinics for my students, both for COVID as well as flu. She welcomed them to her office where she would medically examine them as well as their families at little to no cost. During the peak of the Omicron cases, Dr. Peralta and the Casa Ruben staff responded within 2 hours to come and test all the students in my program to avoid an outbreak. Many students had been exposed during this time. All this at no cost to my students. Personally, Dr. Peralta has accommodated my immobile mother, doing her COVID booster shot from my car, leaving her office to serve my mother's needs. I believe Dr. Peralta and Casa Ruben are in it wholeheartedly. The desire to serve and reach the most vulnerable is clear and apparent. The only thing holding them back is the support needed. Her time and energy is for the community, and her wish is for the most vulnerable to have access to medical care. Please help Casa Ruben bring that to your residents. With this vehicle, medical services can reach many. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fuentes. Next, we will hear from Maria Gomez.
Okay, good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. It is truly my privilege to support the special appropriation, and we are extremely thankful to President Albornoz and Councilmember Friedson, who have been working tirelessly with us to get this to fruition. And my deepest gratitude also to the Department of Health and Human Services for partnering with Casa Ruben and the Robert I. Chatner Foundation to make sure that this essential medical service comes to fruition in the near future. In my 35 years of being an executive in public health arena, I know of the ever-increasing shortage of healthcare providers in this county who can timely address the medical needs of the fast-growing number of children who are either on Medicaid or uninsured. So today, our healthcare and school systems are still trying to catch up with the routine vaccinations for children, not including COVID. The kids count in 2019 tells us that 1 in 5 residents in Montgomery County are youth. And so we also know that the largest number of 5 to 11-year-olds are Latinos and African-American children that live in this county, and only 21 and 16% respectively, that's for Latinos and African-Americans, have actually received the first dose of COVID vaccine. These children are at risk for the greatest side effects of COVID in the country, and the county is also at risk for paying out the most expensive health care delivery, that is emergency rooms and hospitalizations, particularly for the uninsured. We know that this can actually be averted by adding to the county's existing healthcare delivery a mobile medical vehicle run by Casa Ruben that can work alongside the health department and other safety nets to address the health, social, and economic disparities of our most economically fragile children. Casa Ruben has already demonstrated by vaccinating and providing services to over 7,000 during the pandemic. And so we know that they have been able to accomplish this because of their strong partnership and efforts and commitment to the health equity of all children in the county. The county's existing investment on Por Nuestra Salud y Bienestar and the African American health programs that have been extremely successful have been successful because they have been culturally appropriately delivered. They're comprehensive, and by that, when I say comprehensive, they provide vaccines coupled with food, mental health, housing, services, and just to mention a few.
Ms. Gomez, thank you so much for that testimony. Your time is up, and the last thing in the world I want to do is interrupt you in particular, but I have to keep to the time frame. So thank you so much for your testimony. It is greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Next, we are going to hear from Mario Alvarado Villa.
Señor Alvarado, buenas tardes. Si puede dar su testimonio y al concluir yo traduciré por usted.
Ok. Buenas tardes, honorables miembros del Consejo del Condado de Montgomery. Quiero agradecerles por la oportunidad que se me ha brindado de testificar en este día. Mi nombre es Mario Alvarado Villa. Soy residente del condado. Hoy testifico en apoyo a la medida que otorgaría un vehículo que funcionaría como un consultorio móvil. Doy fe del excelente trabajo y de la entrega incondicional de Casa Ruben, sobre todo en los momentos más críticos por la emergencia de salud que generó la pandemia del COVID-19. Este centro médico liderado por la doctora Ligia Peralta siempre está a disposición para ayudar a las familias más necesitadas. Más necesitadas y vulnerables. Muchos de ellos inmigrantes que en muchas ocasiones no suelen contar con un seguro médico. Gracias a la doctora Peralta y a su equipo, las vacunas de protección contra el coronavirus han llegado hasta nosotros y siempre estaremos agradecidos por el apoyo que nos ha brindado cuando más lo necesitábamos. La aprobación de un vehículo de atención móvil ayudaría a muchas personas de escasos recursos, algo que también salvaría vidas. Muchísimas gracias por la oportunidad de compartirles mi testimonio y espero consideren mi argumento, ya que la doctora Peralta trabajó en los tiempos más difíciles en este condado y para toda esta comunidad. Muchas gracias. Dios les bendiga.
Gracias, señor Díaz. And Marcela Rodriguez will now translate.
Good afternoon, honorable members of the Montgomery County Council. I want to thank you for the opportunity you have given me to testify before you. My name is Mario Alvarado Villa, and I'm a resident of this county. Today, I testify in support of the pediatric mobile medical vehicle. I attest to the excellent work and unconditional dedication of Casa Ruben, especially in the most critical moments of the COVID-19 pandemic. This medical center, led by Dr. Ligia Peralta, is always available to help the most vulnerable families, many of them immigrants who often do not have health insurance. Thanks to Dr. Peralta and her team, we have had access to the coronavirus vaccines, and we will always be grateful for the support Casa Ruben has given us when we most needed it. A mobile medical vehicle would help those with limited resources, something that would also save lives. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share my testimony, and I hope you will consider my argument.
Thank you so much. Our next two speakers are here in the audience. So if they can come forward, please, and take a seat. First, we will hear from Ms. Jillian Copeland, followed by Mr. Nicholas Copeland. There's a red button right in front of you. Or it's a speaker button.
Thank you.
There you go.
That's great. Can you all hear me? Great. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, council and staff. Thank you so much for hearing our testimonies today. I'm Jillian Copeland. I've been a county resident for, my sister-in-law wrote 63 years, but 53. 53 years, born and raised here, love this county, and grateful for all the work you do to make the county a wonderful place. I'm a former teacher from Rachel Carson Elementary School and in Montgomery County Public Schools technology trainer. I was an educator for the MCPS school system for 10 years. I'm the founder of the Diener School, a school for youth with learning differences, Main Street Connect in Rockville, Maryland, an inclusive community for everyone to live, play, and work. If you haven't been there, you need to come. Tom, by the way. And I'm also co-owner of Bethesda Magazine. My work to create inclusive spaces offering education and programming for those with disabilities spans over 2 decades. In my work with all of these professional organizations, as well as other nonprofits in the county, such as CASA, I see the incredible health disparities in this county, not just for those with disabilities, but for all of those in zip codes of need. Did you know 1 in 3 adults with disabilities 18 to 44 years of age do not have a usual health care provider? Yes? No? Did you know? No? Did you know 1 in 3 with disabilities 18 to 44 years have an unmet health care need because of cost in the past year? And did you know that 1 in 4 do not have not had a routine checkup in the last year? We are all, as you know, in the same health storm. Diagnosis of physical and mental health numbers are rising, and they will continue to rise. Although we are all in the same health storm, we are in very different boats. Many of us have access to medical care, education, preventative care. These are lifeboats that help us weather the storm. The Casa Ruben Pediatric Mobile Clinic will provide a lifeboat, a needed lifeboat, for so many in our county who are underserved in zip codes where our most vulnerable are not receiving access to health care. Unacceptable. And within many of these zip codes are many individuals with disabilities. Together, we can improve access to health care for our most vulnerable. Let us together build health programs and promote healthy living for all. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Your turn.
Next, we will hear from Nicholas Copeland.
Hey, my name is Mcps Copeland. I'm 22 years old and I live in Rockville, Maryland. I think it's important for everyone to have health care. I have an epilepsy condition. Thankfully, I have medicine and good doctors to help me. All kids, what does that say? Deserve to have health care. Please support the mobile clinic for kids. Thank you for letting me testify today.
You nailed it, Nicholas. Well done. Thank you so much. That concludes, those are all the speakers that we have for this public hearing, and so this public hearing is now closed. Let me just make a couple acknowledgments here. Dr. Peralta is in the house, so thank you so much, Dr. Peralta, for all of your incredible work. Appreciate all my colleagues that have signed on to support this important appropriation, which we know is going to extend this tremendously important service, particularly right now across our communities. Councilmember Reamer would like to speak.
Well, I wanted to say thank you to the sponsors of the appropriation and like to add my name as a co-sponsor. And I want to thank Dr. Peralta. You've been a hero of our community's pandemic response. And you have been there on the ground with your clinics, making sure that we are doing a better job bringing our emergency response to the whole community. And we're so grateful. We never could do what we've done without you. And to your partners, you have been just an amazing team. And so I just want to, I'm glad to see this partnership formalized. I think we should do more to support partners like this. So thank you so much for your work. I'm grateful.
Councilmember Hucker, followed by Councilmember Navarro.
Ditto, well said, and please add me as a co-sponsor as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I want to express my gratitude to you and Councilmember Fritzen, but in reality to Dr. Ligia Peralta and the vaccine hunters and everybody, because this kind of extraordinary efforts is exactly what helped us reach the milestones that we reached here in Montgomery County. And this is exactly the kind of best practices that we have to maintain and we have to expand. So I literally just wanted to say gracias, and then I hope that this is, again, the beginning of a lot of permanent and scalable best practices going forward. And just thanks to everyone who came to testify as well. Sharing your story is just so powerful, and it really does help us continue to do this work. This pandemic, no doubt, continue to show us all of the disparities and how it affects everyone. So thank you, everyone, for taking the time today, and I look forward to the vote on this very important special appropriation.
I also see Tracy Furman in the audience. This is going to be her second acknowledgement today, because she was also acknowledged earlier this morning for her great work on food security issues, which we gave a proclamation to, and she brought this wonderful opportunity to the council's attention. Her leadership in so many different ways is really important, and we really, really appreciate it. Councilmember Rice, followed by Councilmember Jawando.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. And so I'll just dispense of the formalities first. I thought I was as co-sponsor, but I'd like to be listed as one. But one of the things that CODA showed the world is just how important it is about inclusivity and about access. And so I encourage those who haven't. Many know that my mother was a special education teacher who taught at Model Secondary School for the Deaf and Gallaudet University for almost 40 years. And so growing up in that space and understanding the need for us to ensure health care, especially amongst those for people who have differing abilities, is just incredibly important. It is something that continues to highlight, and many people don't realize that in our communities of color and of lower socioeconomic status, those are the ones who are impacted sometimes the most. And unfortunately, there's stigma associated with people with differing abilities inside our communities of color. And so those are other things that they have to deal with on top of all of the other challenges. And so, Dr. Peralta, thank you so much for continuing to highlight the need for us to address these types of situations and bring things to where people are. Government cannot do this alone. And so it does require a partnership. And that's why things like Main Street, things like what we're doing here make so much sense. As we see across the nation, it needs to be a model of what it is that we do. And so I'll make sure that in my role as the chairman of the Human Services and Education Committee for the National Association of Counties, I'm going to make sure that this is highlighted so that many folks see the great work not only that's going on here in Montgomery County, but that can be replicated across this country. So kudos to your great work.
Councilmember Jawando, followed by Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you. I'd also like to be added as a co-sponsor. Just want to thank you all for your work and your testimony, both virtually and in person. I was remarking to Councilmember Katz, one of the great innovations of this last 2 years is that, you know, you had a gentleman testify in his own his first language with a work truck, in the back. That wouldn't have been possible 2 years ago with his lunch sack in the back, rather. From his car, and that's really a good thing. Another innovation of the last 2 years has been the realization that we have to meet the needs of our county and the wealthiest county in the wealthiest state in the wealthiest nation in the history of the globe, and we have to go where people are. It's unconscionable that 10% of our community are hungry every night. We talked about that this morning. It's unconscionable that anyone doesn't have access to health care, and we need to take those services to them, and that's what you're doing. That's what this van will help you continue to do. In partnership, and just appreciate all your great work, and just really happy that we're going to continue the work that you're doing. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Friedson.
Well, thank you so much. I'm just really excited about this. I wish I was there in person, but a couple of things. One, it's important to note that these funds are going to be matched by a private foundation, which I think is an important part of this partnership. I wanted to share in the acknowledgement of Dr. Peralta and all the amazing work that she has done, and our dear friend Maria Gomez and all of the amazing work in public health that she has done. And Tracy was noted earlier. I will say she was supposed to be here, except she took off to help with the humanitarian crisis related to the Ukraine situation and helping and supporting refugee families. So she has beyond an excused absence, and I think just speaks to the heart that she has in bringing this forward to us and my friends Jillian and Nicholas. Amazing testimony, and just speaks to your leadership in the community and why we need to do this. And I'll just say that we in the pandemic have learned a lot, but one of the things we've learned is that we can't sit back and wait for folks to come to us for services. We have to go to them. We have to do it on their turf, in their terms, in their language, in a way that's culturally competent. This is going to help us do that, and we'll also make sure that as we talk about inclusive communities, we have an inclusive community that means food, that we talked about earlier, and it means healthy communities. And one of the things that this effort is going to do is to make sure that everybody in our community has the vaccines they need, not only to stay healthy, but to be able to attend school and participate in all the activities within our community and the education system in our community. So really appreciate everybody signing on as co-sponsors today. More importantly, all of the service providers and the community partnership. And I really do think that this is a model for moving forward, and a best practice that we learned from the pandemic that we can take out of the pandemic to make sure that we are building a better and more inclusive, healthier and more resilient community. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And Tracy is here. She made it back from a meeting.
Oh my gosh.
So thank you.
Sorry, I can't see you, Tracy, but I appreciate you, and thanks for letting me know.
Awesome. Well, I'll close with this. We have an HHS committee work session on 3/31. I don't think it's going to take as long as this public hearing. The work's already been done. This is very exciting. So we really appreciate everyone's efforts. All right, we now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a work session regarding the FY23 through 28 capital improvements program. I want to start on a sad note. Keith Levchenko, who so ably staffs this committee and work for us, his father passed away this morning. And so Keith will not be with us, of course, and we send our best to his family. So, Ms. Michelson, I'm going to ask you to let us know who is staffing each one of these individually, and turn it over to you to let us know who that should be.
Yes, I'll be helping with
and I did it again. So before we do that, We have to approve the minutes, which were distributed to our colleagues. Are there any comments regarding the minutes that were distributed earlier? Nope, hearing no comments, those minutes are approved for February 15th. Thank you.
Great. I will be helping with DEP until Mr. Levchenko returns, but right now I'm going to turn it over to the chair of the committee to present recommendations.
Great.
Thank you, Council President and Ms. Michelson. Good to see everybody here from DOT. On March 7th, the T&E Committee took up the storm drains CIP and recommended approval. The executive branch recommended a big increase in the storm drain general and the culvert replacement funds. They've been underfunded in past years. This is a great thing now that we're able to do it. It's one of the highest priority adaptation recommendations in our climate action plan to repair and enhance our stormwater management conveyance systems. We're seeing much more severe floods, many more severe floods every single year, and it's certainly time that we make the investments to get on top of that. As highlighted in the packet, the T&E Committee is also supportive of potential further increases in the storm drain program if funds become available. Those type of increases can be considered in the context of the T&E Committee's review in the future of the Water Quality Protection Fund, fiscal plan, and the Water Quality Protection Charge requirements during the operating budget review of the DEP budget later on this spring. So that's what I have. Ms. Michelson is batting, not cleanup. What are you batting? I'm out of practice on baseball metaphors. She's pinch hitting. Thank you.
Yes,
I got to catch up on my baseball watching. You're pitch hitting, and DOT's here to provide analysis as well. So back to you, Ms. Michelson. Yes, good thing.
The only thing I did want to add is that in addition to recommending approval of the CIP as submitted by the county executive, Mr. Levchenko recommended that you approve technical amendments that were submitted after the committee's work, pending your review of the Water Quality Protection Fund fiscal plan later this spring. So I would assume that that would be part of.
I think that'll be a short hearing as well, Mr. President.
Yeah. All right, so
does DOT have any elaboration here?
No, Mr. Chair, we're fine.
Great. Yeah, no, thanks for proposing the increase. This is really important stuff, and I think that's why we saw recommendations for full funding colleagues from the Stormwater Partners Network, Audubon Natural Society, Rock Creek Conservancy, and other partners that we value a lot. So we have a committee recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
terrific. This is just a work session, correct? So we do have a committee work recommendation, but I think by acclamation, I can't imagine that there are any issues as a straw vote. Yep. Terrific. That moves us on. So that was items just 8. All right. So we move on to item number 9, stormwater management.
Right, Mr. Chairman, this item as well, the T&E committee took up on March 7th. We recommended approval. This is also not as dramatic of an increase, but a measurable increase, about 4.6%, and includes funding for the impervious area retrofit requirement in our new MS4 permit, which we've been talking about receiving for years. We finally have it. That's very exciting. And funding for the Wheaton Regional Dam flooding mitigation project, which will be completed in FY24. Good to see everybody here from DEP, and the stormwater management facility major structure repairs as well. Ms. Michelson, welcome to everybody from DEP. Ms. Hochberg.
And once again, there are some technical corrections here as well that should be, that Mr. Levchenko recommends that you support.
Great. Ms. Hochberg, did you want to say anything?
Nothing additional, but we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
I don't see any questions from colleagues. We do have a committee recommendation, so I think by acclamation, we support the straw vote.
Okay.
Yes? Great.
Frank, Vicki, Willett. Good to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you. You got your exercise for the day, getting up and
You've
down.
impressed us.
That's right.
Totally impressed over here. No questions.
Yes is an answer.
All right.
Thank you.
Next is recycling and resource management.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, Mr. President, the T&E committee also took this up on March 7th and recommended approval. 6-year program is $88.1 million. That's no change from the amended CIP for 3 ongoing projects. And the sources of funds are the Solid Waste Disposal Fund, current revenue, and revenue bonds. The projects include the full upgrade of the existing recycling center complex, which we've been talking about for years. It's great to see that moving forward. The Goody landfill remediation and the transfer station fire detection and suppression system. You all remember the fires.
And
at
I
the
do
transfer
not,
station.
I don't have any additions on this.
No additions on that. Don't throw away your cell phones. Okay. Councilmember Reamer. Sorry. I'm not right.
Thank you. Nice to see you here. Could you give us an update on compost facility preparation? I was hoping to see some tangible progress. Where are we on that?
Thank you. I'd like to turn things over to Willie Wayner, who's the chief of the Recycling Resource Management Division at DEP, to answer your question.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you all. Okay, so we're talking food waste here, of course, and as you know, we started
because we already compost, as DEP always says. We already compost yard waste. It's food waste is the issue.
It's food waste, yes, and we started a pilot program on a curbside food scraps collection. Started a program in the area of Silver Spring and in an area in Potomac. That program has been going on for about 4 months now. One started the end of November in Silver Spring. The other one started in December in the area of Potomac. It's going great. We're getting great results. That material is currently going to the Prince George's County compost facility. There is a new facility that is going to be opening up, an anaerobic digester in Jessup. That facility is going to be open up probably in the next 2 or 3 months. We are in conversations with that facility to get an agreement to also be able to send food scraps over there. And at the same time, we are preparing an RFP with the help of the Maryland Environmental Service to look into any possibilities of technology included, technology and land to and recommendations to develop, design, and install a food scraps facility in Montgomery County. So that's in the development area. We submitted the scope of work, and we're going to get a consultant basically to tell us what is the best technology for us based on the trends, based on the potential food scraps generation in Montgomery County. And that could include any facility, for example, the existing compost facility in Dickerson will be also looked at. But again, it's open to any type of technology or facility. That's why we want an expert to tell us that.
Okay, and when will that RFP be public?
The RFP will probably be public in about a month, I would say. And the study will probably take 2 to 3 months, and so we're looking at probably September, October to have a recommendation.
Okay. Thank you for the update. I wish that this had happened 3 years ago, but I'm pleased that you're proceeding with it now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe that closes out this item, correct, Mr. Chairman?
I think you're right, Mr. President.
All right. So we've got a committee recommendation as well, and I don't see any questions or objections from colleagues. So by acclamation, we support this in a straw vote as well. Terrific. Thank you all. That takes us to item number 11, which is conservation of natural resources, agricultural land preservation. This is coordinated by the Fed Committee, so I will turn it over to Chairman Reamer.
All right. Great. We are joined here by Jeremy Chris and Mike Scheffel, Mary Beck from OMB, and Gene Smith was our staff on this topic. So the committee met and we wanted to achieve a couple goals here. The first was unwinding a decision that was made many years ago to fund staff positions with the Fund for Agricultural Preservation. So this budget item is one of the resources that we have to buy land and put it under long-term easements. So zoning is how most of the land in the Ag Reserve is reserved. It's through zoning, but some land is reserved with much more legal restriction, and that is land that has been put under easements. And so we have a system in the county for purchasing those, but we don't have enough money for purchasing those. And so in the capital budget here is one of the resources that are available. And what we have seen is a continuing devotion of those funds for other important projects in the agriculture, in the Office of Agricultural's portfolio. But what we want to do is see that shifted out, put those, fund those positions through the general operating budget in the office, and then leave the funding that's in the capital budget over the long term, leave it there for more preservation. So we decided that we would not recommend that in the current fiscal year because it would be quite disruptive to existing contracts and other, work that's happening at the Office of Ag. But we wanted to establish very clearly that next year we are looking for an operating budget recommendation that will fully fund the preservation item here, for preservation. So that was the main recommendation from the committee on that topic. And then we also, as a committee, agreed to recommend to the council to add $500,000 in the current year to increase easement purchases. And so that is item B there on your packet. And of course, as we know, current revenue in the capital budget is, there's a lot of claims on it, and we'll try to see how we can keep that in there as we proceed and have to do the interplay with the operating budget. But if we could fund $500,000 in essentially current money for ag preservation, then we'd like to see that happen. So those are the committee recommendations. I'll turn it to Jean, and then we'll invite our representatives from the Office of Ag.
Thank you, Mr. Reamer. I believe you did a great job summarizing the committee's recommendations.
Thank you,
I have
Jean.
nothing else to add.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Very good. That was, hey, I'll take that. All right. It's adjourned.
Jeremy Chris, Office of Agriculture, Mike Shuffle. I want to thank Jean for putting together a really good packet with the options for the Fed committee to explore. I also wanted to thank Andrew Friedson for his recommendation to the Fed committee that Hans, you just outlined very well, and we're heading in the right direction to try to get our ag preservation program back on track for its original intent, which is purchasing easements. And so welcome the support of the council to migrate these expenses, planning, design, and supervision back to the operating budget as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chris. And speaking of Councilmember Friedson, he has requested to speak. Councilmember Friedson.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'll just be very brief. Proud of the work that the committee did. Really appreciate council staff, Mr. Smith, and our friends in the Office of Agriculture. And just to highlight, we've been talking about this for years. This was an effort to deal with some of the fiscal challenges back in fiscal year 2010 that was undertaken by the prior council and prior executive. And for years, our committee has been sending memos saying, stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing this. And it continues to happen. And it's not appropriate for it to continue to fund operating expenses out of the capital budget. And so finally, we made that formal change in the capital budget for moving forward, which is appropriate. And then rather than doing something that would be potentially disruptive in the operating budget, we're recommending that we make it whole for this year in the operating budget, then fix the capital budget for next year. So I think that's important. I think that it's reflective of what the committee and the council has been advocating for quite some time, of finally ending and cleaning up this project PDF, which has been a bit of a challenge, and focus it back to what is intended, which is for ag land preservation, and to make sure that in order to have an agricultural reserve that's environmentally sustainable, the agriculture has to be economically sustainable. And this is one of the key tools to making sure that happens, and to ensuring the success and viability of the ag reserve. So appreciate colleagues, glad we're moving this forward to full council, and look forward to everybody's support.
Councilmember Rice.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I don't want to belabor this, but God, this has been a long time coming. And it's actually a practice that we've done not just with Office of Agriculture. There are other departments that had the same thing, where they had positions. I know namely when it was with Economic Development and some of the others that had positions that were outside, that were funded through the capital budget. And so this is much cleaner, much neater, more in line with what it is that we expect, and folks can follow and understand where our expenditures are going, and to then be true to the commitment that we have, that I mentioned earlier today, Jeremy, before you came in, about our agricultural reserve and the need for us to continue to bolster the efforts that are happening in our ag reserve, understanding that when we commit 1/3 of our land mass to economic development and opportunity, we need to make sure that the resources go along with that. So I'm very supportive of this, and really want to thank the committee for continuing to work on these efforts. So thank you, Chair Reamer, and thank you, as always, Mr. Chris.
And Councilmember Rice, that was your questions or statements you made earlier with MCDC, is that correct? Okay, thank you.
All right, so there's the committee recommendation.
Great. We have a committee recommendation on the floor. There are no other requests to speak. And so by acclamation, I think we can go ahead and support that committee recommendation in a straw vote. Unanimously.
All right.
All right, that moves us on to item number 12, General Government, Economic Development, also our Fed Committee. Back over to Chairman Reamer.
Okay. Thank you so much. So this project has a number of items in it, mostly which are closeout items. And generally there's not much to see here. But we did have an important conversation about progress in White Oak. And we just made very clear that we want to return to this topic again, as we have returned to it in the recent past. We expressed our concern about public comments, that are not fully supportive of making progress in White Oak, and we wanted to see also what the property owners were doing there. So again, this one was a joint committee, I think, right, with GO, Chair Navarro and I, and we asked to again come back at a future time and do a more thorough review of status and progress on the White Oak economic development plan. And so with that said, again, the projects inside here, there weren't no changes recommended from the executive's recommendation. Gene, anything to add there?
Just that really the only project that would be approved in the economic development, general government and CIP for fiscal 23 to 28 is the White Oak project. The other projects, as Mr. Reamer noted, are closing out. And so that's why there's no recommendation for those, because there's no funding scheduled, at least in 23 to 28 for those projects. And as Mr. Reamer noted, council staff will work with executive staff and other partners to schedule a future briefing related to White Oak, and I believe Ms. Navarro also spoke of during the meeting having more of a 360 review, not just for the White Oak Life Sciences Gateway project, and so we will be working on that through this budget in summer, and hopefully have something summer, fall, depending on timing.
Very good.
All right, thank you. We also have a committee recommendation here. I don't see any of my colleagues that have requested to speak. I think that we can safely, by acclamation, support this committee recommendation as well in a straw vote. Terrific. That takes us to the final item on the agenda, which is general government, county offices, and other improvements. This was facilitated by our Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee, and Mr. Mia is here, as well as Ms. McGuire. We also have Mr. Dice and Mr. Assant and Ms. Beck. Councilmember Navarro, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also just want to make sure that it is reflected that the previous item was indeed a GO-Fed item. And so in terms of this particular item, general government, county offices, and other improvements, I want to thank Mr. Mia for putting this together, as well as everyone that is present, DGS, and also my colleagues. The executive's total 6-year funding level covering FY23 to 28 for the general government, county offices, and other improvements CIP subcategory is $180.3 million, which is approximately $32 million less than the amended FY21 to 26 CIP program total of $212.4 million. The executive's total 6-year funding level covering FY23 to 28 for the general government, other general government projects CIP category is $0 million, which is the same as the $0 million in the amended FY21 to 26 CIP. There are no new or amended projects in the FY23 to 28 period. The committee reviewed the staff packet and recommended approval of the budgets as requested by the county executive. Also of note is that the ABS Retail Refresh project, which is administered separately by Alcohol and Beverage Services, will be reviewed by the Public Safety Committee during the operating budget review. Also, there was a request from the Lynching Memorial Commission to add a study to identify locations for the memorial to the facility planning CIP project. Staff had expected this to come from the county executive during the March 15th CIP amendments, but it appears that he instead placed the funding for the study in the operating budget. And this is mentioned in the packet, so the commission was aware that the funding was included. In summary, the committee concurs with all of the remaining executive proposed amendments in the county offices and other improvements CIP subcategory, and concurs with all the executive's proposed amendments in the other general government projects CIP subcategory. I also want to respectfully request for the record that staff amend the packet to reflect that the Government Operations Committee indeed did meet on March 10th, 2022, and took the actions that I just stated. The packet inadvertently omitted that detail. I will note that staff also recommended approval of the budgets as presented. We did agree to defer discussion on the transportation MCPS Bus Depot for the full council, meaning right now. So for that or any other items that I may have omitted, I will turn it over to our council legislative analyst, Mr. Naeem Mia, to walk us through any other discussion regarding the depot or other decision points. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes. Thank you. There are 3 issues before the full council today. One is the MCPS Bus Depot. Another 2 items I'll get into afterwards is related to facility planning, including the lynching memorial, as well as another study that was requested late from the county executive. Regarding the bus depot, the CE is recommending $83 million in the beyond 6 years to fund the demolition of the current bus depot site, as well as the planning, design, site preparation, and construction of a new bus depot at the 7 Locks Road parcel where the current county facilities are currently located. The bus depot project is the 3rd project on that site and is slated to begin after the first 2 projects, the first one being the Restoration Center and the second one being the Criminal Justice Complex. The earliest date for these projects for the bus depot to work to begin would be FY29, assuming that the previous 2 projects are completed on time. Council staff is recommending that at this point we not include $83 million in the CIP in the beyond 6 years. Not to be clear, that is not suggesting that we not look at the 7 Locks parcel, but to suggest that because there's several moving parts and 2 other projects that have taken high priority moving forward, we wait and see as those projects develop in time before we move forward on this one. There's an alternative option is to add some funding to the facility planning PDF to continue evaluating not just 7 Locks parcel, but other sites as well for the bus depot, including finding more of a comprehensive solution to both the depot, the maintenance, and the parking needs that are required. So at this point.
Great. I've got two colleagues that have requested to speak. I'll start with Councilmember Rice, followed by Councilmember Katz.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. So I think it's important for us to also understand in context that we do have the largest purchase of electric buses by any county public school system in the nation. And so certainly as we look forward to what it is that we're going to do with buses and the challenges associated with what we're going to do with buses, understanding that these electric vehicles don't have the same exhaust, don't have the same sound. So those are two of the challenges that we've heard from so many neighbors when it comes to citing these vehicles. Those are things that we do have to consider, as well as understanding that there's so much that's in flux, continual with where it is that is the best location for these buses, that I do understand, certainly in postponing this for the immediacy. However, I would just say that because we also do have a large cadre of buses that are going to be coming in that will need a facility to be able to have them charged, and there will be significant capital outlay that's associated with that. And I see everybody nodding, so we all know and acknowledge that that's the case. We do need to forward plan for this. And so from that standpoint, I'm just curious as to, are we looking at reworking based on these kinds of new stipulations that are out there regarding what it is that's happening with the school system, with the cadre of buses, and with possible co-location, understanding that so much of our own individual county fleet, some of which is becoming electrified, not all, not as much, and we understand why. You don't have to explain, but certainly ones in which the potential co-location for some of those things may be potentials as well. So just wanted to put that out there for conversation.
Would you like me to address that now? I'm looking at the president. So, okay. This is David Dice, Director, Department of General Services. Regarding the first part of your comments, Mr. Rice, there is no effort that we are undertaking regarding school bus relocations that would consider anything but electric school buses. The original thoughts for this site that we're looking at now, or any future site that we may consider, will only consider electric buses. So you can be satisfied with that. And co-location is always a possibility. As council members will understand, finding space, real estate large enough to accommodate this. It has been asked, as many council members that have been around for the last 10 years will appreciate, we have looked at numerous sites. We're always looking for sites that can improve over the sites that we're looking at right now. But yes, eliminating the environmental impacts that are that would come with a fossil fuel facility are no longer a part of this calculation, which is a significant improvement.
To that end, Mr. Dice, I would just ask that I know we identified a number of sites that worked well, but because of the environmental concerns, we thought we couldn't no longer pursue. But now that, as I just heard you say, that commitment is there, that these would be sited with with only electric vehicles, that actually brings back into play. I don't want to rehash what's already, trust me, I have the same scars you do, and I remember the bus tours.
I think I might have a few more.
Yeah, you may have a few more, that's true. But that being said, I mean, a number of these sites were really good if it were not for some of the environmental challenges. Sure. And so from that standpoint, I mean, I would just encourage us to have all those options on the table. It's not just about the new potential sites, but there are a lot of existing sites that we've looked at that I think would fit now that we're looking at an electrified fleet. So
yeah, that's a good point. Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Katz, followed by Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you to Mr. Dice and Mr. Sant and everyone else associated with this. If the county did not own the 7 Lock site, I would just this side of doubt whether the county would suggest that we go to the 7 Lock site. And what we're doing is suggesting, and I understand we're not moving the buses today and probably wouldn't be moving them for 10 years. And we need to figure out another place where the buses should be rather than where they are. I'm in absolute agreement with that. And some of the environmental, and a lot of the environmental issues would be solved by the all-electric fleet. Having said that, it still doesn't solve the traffic problem for the neighbors there. And having said that, in some cases, we're moving, if we were to go to 7 locks, and I'm certainly far from not suggesting that in the least. I don't want it to be anywhere near thought that I am. But in some cases, we're moving from one residential area to another residential area. And so that is a concern of mine as well. I think that we really do need to have a comprehensive, and I agree with my colleague, Councilmember Rice, I think we need to have a comprehensive discussion again. And I have a few, I don't have as many scars as you or Councilmember Rice on many topics, Mr. Dice, but I believe we do need to have the conversations again to figure out really what would be the best spot and how, now that we know that these are going to be electric buses, et cetera, and how we can do that. I mean, if we were to sell the 7 lock site and actually come up with a different spot, maybe that's a solution. I don't know. But I do know that I've heard from people who live in the city of Rockville and others that I think we should sit down with the people from the city of Rockville, the government from the city of Rockville, to see if they have any better suggestions. This is not a good suggestion, in my opinion, for 7 locks. So I think we need to and if it means more money to figure out where we should be or where we could be, I'm in favor of that. But I'm not in favor of just saying, because we have this land, let's move there. I have real problems with that. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Reamer, followed by Council Vice President Glass.
All right. This is a complicated one here. So, because there's different implications of different variables. I reached out to some of the community advocates this morning. It seemed like this may have flown under the radar here a bit. So I think something to keep in mind here. Not to say that this issue has generally flown under the radar, but rather the specific capital budget item in our deliberation. So my primary concern is we don't have a comprehensive plan or even close to one for relocating the bus depot. And I think that's the main gist that I take from council staff's comments. It's not that this is a bad site or that it might not cost $80 million or more. It's that this is a partial, this is only a part of a solution. And we need the executive branch to find a complete solution, and we need one that is sooner. The concern that I have, as I have learned here, thanks to council staff, we don't know how much space will be available on this site once these other projects are complete. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done on these other projects, right? This site will be a multi-use site. And so it's unclear how many buses this particular property could host in the first place, and it's not enough for all the needs in the second place. And so I think we need a project form here that expresses our strong desire for relocation, because Shady Grove needs it. I mean, this is an essential property for the successful redevelopment of the Shady Grove area and the Mid-County generally. And the smart growth vision for that segment of the county is just not going to be fulfilled until we get that more dynamic use of that property than parking buses. And I think many are frustrated that not only are we not moving them out, we've actually been adding more buses because we've been parking ride-on buses in the vicinity now too, due to some other needs, I suppose. So the number of buses being parked here in this area has only grown. Recognizing that's not a long-term intended use, but at the same time it is an aggravation. And we got to be moving faster. So a 10+ year timeline for bus depot relocation is just insufficient. And so what I would like to ask staff is what kind of language should we have in here if we want to express our intent to move faster and to develop a more comprehensive solution for the relocation. And I would not want to remove this property, but I would want to be clear that this is a consideration and it's not the only one, and that we need more, so that folks there know that they're not being singled out per se, but that also we recognize the need for additional properties as well. Essie, or thank you.
Thank you. No, I think we could certainly reflect in the PDF language that indicates the council's intent to seek a comprehensive solution, and also specify that this study should evaluate the Seven Locks property and other properties, and look to bring back that comprehensive solution sometime, within the next CIP planning cycle, for example, would be a time that the council could receive an update on that plan. I think too, again, if we put that language in the PDF that exists, that does exist and is before you here, remove the funding. Even though it's in the beyond 6 years, it still would sort of, again, indicate that there's a hold on this project, but would not necessarily indicate any action pro or con, just to reflect the need to look more comprehensively at properties and solutions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm nervous about if we remove the funding that isn't really there, people would say, look, the county council, someone might say, well, I had a plan and the county council removed the funding, and I wouldn't want to lend any credence to that, so.
Certainly, as it is in the beyond 6 years, that also, I mean, as you said, it would really be up to the council how you wanted to indicate that funding. It doesn't have an impact on the affordability. And if the language is clear that it is, again, to support future developments of the bus depot, then certainly that could be one way to represent that in the PDF.
And I don't want to diminish the thinking about the potential multi-use of the site. I think that's creative. I also, my analysis here, and I'm just like all of us, we're trying to figure this out as we go, is that this is probably more like the second part of a solution, that we need something sooner than this site would be available. And I just don't think I don't think it's fair to the community to express that they will have to wait that long for an answer. And at the same time, if we knock out the one site that you have found, that's how this thing just runs out forever. We've been here before, knocking them out one site at a time. Every time a site gets knocked out, then it's another 5 years before another site, before we're sitting back at the table with another site. So, I think it's important to keep in there while expressing, I personally think we need, and other council members have expressed, we need to look at other sites, get them on the board, because some of them, there are sites that we could find that are available perhaps sooner, I should say certainly sooner. I don't know anymore what the timing is on the electric bus, the school bus electrification. What's the timing on that? It's been very confusing to me from a distance what's going on there. And I'm going to ask you, David, because I know you're knowledgeable here, but Essie might know more. I don't know. But Essie?
So certainly the school system's plan for that did add electric buses on a replacement cycle, and the school system replaces about 1/12 of the fleet each year under state law because of how the buses cycle through. So the idea is to integrate the electric buses as new buses are brought on.
And is that happening?
Yes.
Okay, so that hasn't been affected by any of the confusion at the transportation department there. All right, so that's happening. So 1/12 of that's like 100 buses a year, isn't it? I mean, that's a lot of buses. So very soon we have the ability to, and the need for, electric, and maybe we can rejuggle things as those electric buses come online. As the Education Committee chair said, electric buses don't make noise and they don't spew out diesel exhaust. And so their impact on a surrounding community is far different than what we used to have. And so I don't see a plan here that coincides with the arrival of electric buses. And it seems like we ought to have that in place and we ought to get that. So, could we hear from the executive branch on that?
The executive, or the existing depot at Crabs Branch does have some capacity for charging the electric buses. That has been foreseen, not a large quantity, but certainly in the near term. Additional infrastructure could be constructed at the school's Seven Locks Depot for that purpose, just as we have done at the Gaithersburg Transit facility. We've installed charging stations for the half a dozen buses there. Not certainly as robust as the very large charging infrastructure we're building at the Brookville Depot, which will charge 70 buses. But there is plans for that. But clearly, the existing infrastructure at the school's site would have to undergo significant improvements if it were to remain there.
At Crabs Branch.
At Crabs
which is
Branch.
where we don't want it to be anyway, right?
Right. So, as I said earlier, any facility we would consider would be exclusively for electric charging, including a microgrid that would provide some existing on-site renewable energy charging to that.
So what is the school system's plan? I mean, they're going to have several hundred electric buses within a few years. What is their plan?
I can't speak to that. I don't know if Essie might know.
The plan is to put charging into the stations as part of the infrastructure. Into the depots as part of the infrastructure. The school system did have conversations with DGS around that Shady Grove issue, because certainly we don't want to overinvest in a depot that is ultimately to be relocated. Again, keep in mind that there are multiple depot locations for MCPS around the county, and so while there certainly, and again the adding of that quantity of buses per year is still prospective. The first year was not a full 12th of it, and so that will kick into higher numbers next year, and that's when that infrastructure will be there to support it in some of the other depots.
And a lot of that would depend upon the school's strategy for distributing the electric buses. They had originally stated that they would work with us to focus on the Crabs Branch fleet if a facility existed for that use. If not, they could distribute electric buses to their other 5 depots, I believe, for charging. So there are solutions to that don't make it a hair on fire issue. But you've appropriately observed, Councilmember Reamer, that neither is this something where one can sit back. There's a future looming, and solutions need to be considered. We have, over the last 10 plus years, looked at any number of sites, as Mr. Rice painfully observed. And some of those exist, some of them no longer exist. Some of them are already approved for other projects. So is there other sites? Yes. Are they readily available? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to go back and look.
So let me suggest, I agree we should remove the funding because it's not soon enough. 10 years is not soon enough. And having funding that might be spent in 10 years is meaningless. But we need to express that we want a faster solution because this part of the county needs the progress and needs the investment. And I don't think we should remove an identification of this property, but we should make it very clear that we have not seen a plan, and this property does not represent a plan that we support yet. We need a plan that we can support that solves this problem, and we haven't seen it yet. So I'll pass it back to the council president now with those comments, and if we could perhaps, I don't know if it's kind of hard to write that in real time, Essie, but if you could
Certainly,
do that, great. But otherwise,
I would suggest that if the council supports that as a recommendation, council staff could draft the language and either bring it back or send it around for review prior to final action.
okay. I'm not sure where other council members are, but we'll proceed with this conversation. Thank you.
I don't know that we're ready to vote on that now, but I think that's a good recommendation, is to circulate something and give us a little time to process. All right, I've got Council Vice President Glass, followed by Councilmember Hucker, and then Councilmember Navarro. Council Vice President Glass. Oh, and Councilmember Katz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilmember Reamer asked a number of the questions that I wanted to ask, but I think there might be a little more emphasis that is needed on some of those points. Director Dice, you, in answering one of the questions about how many depots there are, you had said you think there's 5. How? Ms.
There are
McGuire?
there are technically 6 depots. There are 5 locations because the Shady Grove depot counts as 2. It's larger than the others, and so it functionally is 2. But there are 5 locations for MCPS buses.
And that's the North Depot and the South Depot in
Correct.
Shady Grove.
But that's all one. That's correct. It is one property.
Can you tell us where the other depots are?
There's one in Clarksburg. There's one in Randolph in that area. There's one at West Farm close, and then there's one in Bethesda.
So they're essentially spread out.
Yes.
They're geographically dispersed.
Yes, they are.
Right. So they don't affect all one community, right? Okay. It's important. It's important to elevate and to state, right? Good. The dual depot, I'll call it that, the dual depot on Shady Grove, right, in Shady Grove. Can you remind us again as to why we're looking to relocate that?
I believe Mr. Mia mentioned this in his pack as part of the Shady Grove development strategy to come in and redevelop that property with school, park, and housing.
I heard him the first time, that's why I said restate it, right? Because it needs to be elevated. Not that he didn't do a good job, but again, that's what this conversation is about. And as we're trying to figure out where these depots that are already spread across the county go, there's a reason for it. And not only is the reason in that particular location important for the redevelopment, the long-awaited redevelopment of that community, more smart growth at its essence, but the other reason we're thinking of relocating is because of the electric vehicles that are being brought in, trying to figure out how to maintain them. Is that correct?
The electric vehicles will require infrastructure that could be built at the existing depots.
Okay. And how many buses are we expecting over the next number of years?
The fleet is currently approximately 1,300. It does grow with enrollment.
Okay. So that's a lot of buses that we need
That's not just at Shady Grove. That's across the fleet.
Sure. A lot of buses and a lot more infrastructure, right? Because you can't just pull into the parking lot and park your, lock the vehicle. You need all of the power to charge it. Okay. And then just so I understand it, the proposal that is in the CIP, how far out is it?
Well, it's beyond the current CIP, so it's at least 8 to 10 years out.
So on one hand, for residents who are concerned, nothing's happening for a long time.
That's correct.
On the other hand, we got a lot of buses that are coming on board, and we need to figure out how to charge them soon.
That's also correct.
Okay. That's quite a quandary.
You bet.
Yeah.
It's one of my scars. You got
the quandary scar. Got it. They didn't have that when I was in Cub Scouts, but but here I am on the council now, so I don't know what that means. My final point I'll make is that for residents who have already reached out to me and who I've spoken with about concerns about the depot moving into their neighborhood, they have cited the sound pollution and the environment, the air pollution. But as I understand the fleet, the electric fleet, there really isn't any noise pollution or sound pollution. Is that what e-vehicles essentially mean to a community?
Yes, essentially. I want to be fair, though, and fully disclose. There are CDL requirements require the drivers to test some of the essential equipment on the bus when they walk around the bus before they leave the premises. That does include a tap of the horn and making sure the backup beepers work. So there's that brief period where you get a beep, oh, it works, okay, I'm ready to go. So okay. It's when we say sound, it's certainly not the revving of diesel engines, the belching of diesel fumes, although to be also very clear, our buses don't belch diesel fumes. It's very clean diesel, but diesel nonetheless. And we don't have the oils and greases associated with those diesel engine maintenance.
Okay. This is very helpful for me for level setting. I hope it's helpful for those who are following the conversation as well, recognizing that we have some serious conversations we have to figure out in the short term to make sure that this exciting proposal, which we are first in the nation for, having an all-electric school bus fleet is actually optimized and utilized. And we will continue having these conversations to mitigate any concerns, but of course we need to figure out how to charge them and make sure that they are geographically spread throughout the county. So thank you.
Councilmember Hucker, followed by Councilmember Navarro, and then Councilmember Katz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Glad we're having this discussion. I didn't expect to be talking about this, but since the electric bus contract has come up, and since I don't see you often enough, David, I just wanted to raise the question. I'm very excited we're moving aggressively into this area. I mean, 7 years ago, I was meeting with Superintendent Smith in my first year in the council, my first month in the council, asking about this and pushing Mr. Watson to apply for state money later, and they applied for just enough money for one bus, of course. So this is a big sea change, which is very positive. On the other hand, so I recently was speaking at a national a conference that included a panel on EVs, and met a number of contractors in this space in the area. I heard complaints from some companies that were very interested in the contract but didn't bid on them because they didn't think they would be treated fairly in Montgomery County based on their past history. And I don't know what there's to say about that. I did talk to other bidders who had bid, weren't chosen, were local, and felt like their status as a local and minority-owned and veteran-owned business wasn't given them the appropriate number of points.
Was this on school buses?
On school buses.
Okay.
And so I know you can't comment on that, and I can follow up with you, and there's always those, disagreements in a procurement. But I wanted to ask you something I could ask more openly in this setting about procurement strategy, which you know a lot more about than I do. Where you have, if we're not buying uniforms, we're not buying recycling bins. This is an area that is innovative new technology. It's an emerging, rapidly changing area. We haven't bought them before. The school system hasn't, and it's fraught with some risk, right, inherently, compared to recycling bins. You have multiple competent bidders. Why structure it as one contract where there's only one bidder that wins everything, rather than breaking it up into 2 or 3 contracts where you have somebody who's charged with performing most of the work, but other contractors might be able to do some of the work, in which would both help us meet our MBE goals and spread the risk around a little bit, right? Doesn't putting all the eggs in the one contractor basket increase the risk?
I want to be careful. I don't want to opine on schools' procurement strategies. Let me talk to you about what the county's.
What would you do?
Strategies on that. We're currently, I have staff out in California right now doing testing and factory inspections of our next round of purchase of electric transit buses from a different manufacturer than we bought our first 10. It was a bid. We are interested as a practice of fleet management. We don't like to get wrapped into a single manufacturer. We routinely like to distribute our administrative, public safety fleets to different manufacturers to the greatest extent we can. It was actually, anecdotally, was a problem for us when, for instance, Ford got out of, or Chevrolet got out of the police vehicle industry, because it limited us to Ford and Dodge. And then Ford started backing away, and then we were with Dodge. And so we're going back. It's good to see Ford getting back into some of that. So we prefer to have a mixture, just so that we're not dependent upon the vagaries of of a manufacturing process, supply chain shortages, and the like. I understand the ease and strategy of putting everything into one basket. There are, as you observed, some inherent risks in that. That's not what we try and do. And we also try to a certain extent, distribute, so make sure that, of course, the county has laws regarding the requirement of local and minority business participation that the schools don't necessarily have. They're abiding by state standards. So there's those factors as well. Just as an educational element, one of the things we'll find with electric buses is, because there's less to work on, the opportunities to use local companies to do some repairs that we might use for diesels will go away, because the buses, for instance, that we're purchasing and operating right now, the Proterra buses, very component. Something breaks, take that out, put the new one in, send the old one back to the manufacturer. Again, as you observed, also this is a growing industry. Technologies are changing. Right. And it may be, and I would love to see this actually, that eventually locally or at least regionally, there are companies that support the Gilligs and the New Flyers and the Proterras, and so that we don't have to go to California or Florida or Greenville, South Carolina to get parts. We can do those locally. That would be wonderful. I think that will come over time as the industry matures. We're starting to see the same thing. Our biggest challenge up until this point in the county's fleet has been heavy-duty trucks and fixed axle cube trucks and things like that. The industry's responding. We're starting to see those. We're testing some now for ABS as well as for libraries and recreation. So as the industry grows, I think we'll see more of that. It's not real prevalent right now.
Especially if we create opportunities for local manufacturers.
Exactly.
And repair shops.
I would agree.
Okay, so since we're talking hypothetically, you hadn't provided any advice to the school system on this procurement.
We did not, no.
Right. Do they ever seek out your advice on this, on things like this?
On this one, we did not. We were not requested to provide any input.
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes, yeah.
Right. They'd be smart to. But the approach I'm describing is actually consistent with what you try to do, and it's a better practice.
In the county fleet, that's what we
for the county fleet, right? Yeah. Okay, very helpful. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Navarro, followed by Councilmember Katz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to point out that on February 25th, there was an email that Ms. McGuire did share with us regarding this particular discussion. In that email, I think she does correctly also point out that we do need to determine what budget vehicle is appropriate for council review, for example, MCPS or general government, and that obviously it was important for the committee of the whole, meaning the entire council, to have this conversation. I think that given the complexity of this issue, as well as the importance of moving forward, given the opportunities that we are missing with the redevelopment, but also some new variables like the electric buses, I do think that it would be helpful to come back to this and perhaps have council members forward particular questions for a more in-depth, combo. I know I still have a lot of questions. I know many of my colleagues did as well. But it is an unusual way to proceed. However, when GEO took up this particular item, we didn't have a lot of the information shared, and it was, our central office staff felt that it was best to have this conversation in full council. So just wanted to point that out. This has a lot of history, this particular a challenge. I think it dates back to the years when I was actually a member of the Board of Education. This has been an ongoing challenge for us. But I do think that the introduction of electric buses does provide an interesting variable that now we can, leverage to see how we can reconsider some options. So just wanted to point that out. And hopefully, again, we can, carve out a little bit more time to come up with something a bit more substantive versus just voting on something today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Katz, followed by Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I appreciate all this conversation. This has been one that is, where the buses are existing today on Crabs Branch is in what is my district today. It won't be my district, hopefully, if I'm reelected to the new 3rd district, but it certainly is in the 3rd district today. I am not in favor of 7-lock site for buses, and I want to say that very clearly. But if the way that Councilmember Reamer had discussed and Ms. McGuire had discussed, I certainly have no problem with finding out the various options. But if there would be a way that we could word it or could consider it, that the 7-lock site would not be on the, first of all, I'd prefer it not be on the listing at all. I have a feeling that my colleagues won't agree with that. But if we could word it that if it were not at the 7-lock site, where could it be, rather than also have it as part of the 7-lock site? And though, as I say, I'd prefer that it be taken off the list totally. And then the other thing that I believe that needs to be as part of the discussion is the vehicular access itself. And though we do have less environmental concerns because of the electric fleet, they, to Mr. Dice's point, they are going to be beeping their horns at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever time horn beeping would start. And obviously, with residential neighbors being that close, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever the time is in the morning, sound carries a whole lot different than 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening. So I do think all of those issues and any other site that we have, how close the residential neighbors would be, because that's what we are doing. We're affecting not only the vehicular access, but we're also talking about the residential neighbors. And I have great concern with that, especially knowing what we're living with now and having to move it to another site that we might just be changing what we're living with now to another site, and that's not fair either. The other thing is that I do believe it should be mentioned on the Crabs Branch site right now. It's my understanding that every bus driver has to figure out where they're going to park their car when they go to drive their bus. And any new site, we shouldn't have that. I mean, there has to be a complete plan. We're talking the words comprehensive. This has to be comprehensive, regardless of wherever it goes, that we don't continue to make the same mistakes. And maybe it wasn't a mistake. I mean, we grew more and more, and we had to figure out a place for these buses. We can't find another spot, so all of a sudden you make do with what you have. But we really, if we're planning this, we need to be comprehensive in our thoughts on that as well. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm turning it back.
Thank you. Councilmember Friedson.
Well, thank you. It's been a very interesting conversation. I think it highlights the fact that some of this is a little bit premature. I will say, one, it's exciting that we're moving towards electric buses. Hopefully we can move forward sooner rather than later. There's definitely a need for that. We have to have a place to charge electric buses. We certainly need to find a location for that, and we hope to do it sooner rather than later, because there have been commitments that have been made for years and years and years have been noted to undertake a redevelopment, which has significant community and county benefits at Crabs Branch. Having said all that, I was prepared to support the council staff recommendation just because I didn't think that this was fully baked and ready for us, and we hadn't really fleshed out where we're going with this, and more work, it seems clear, needs to happen, and no efforts are going to be undertaken until at the earliest fiscal year 29, which is quite a ways away, so it would provide us the time to do it. So I will just note, I would be prepared to support the council staff recommendation. I understand the interest by colleagues in signaling to the community that we are moving from Crabs Branch. The question is where. And I will just say that I don't think it's appropriate to include in budget PDF language that we're going to look at a number of sites and only name one. If we're going to be serious at looking at a number of sites, we should just include language that we are doing feasibility to look at different sites, and we should be open-ended about it and find the best site. And if ultimately it's one site over another, then it is incumbent upon us as policymakers to make that determination, and for the executive branch to do its work through the appropriate agencies and MCPS, et cetera, to do the outreach to the communities and to address specific community concerns. So It doesn't sound like we're going to vote on this today if we're not taking up the council staff recommendation. I would be fine if we included additional language on the need and the interest to move on this and move on it sooner rather than later. But I will just say personally that if we are going to include language that talks about weighing a number of sites and doing a feasibility, then I don't think it's appropriate to only name one. I think rather we need to name number of sites that are going to be identified and studied and have a public process in order to do that. Or we should not include any of the sites and just say that a public process to do the feasibility for those sites will be underway. I think either of those would be appropriate, but I don't think just including one site, but suggesting, but don't worry, we're going to look at other sites too, but not share with the public what those other sites might be is an appropriate path forward. So that's where I'm at on this. Look forward to additional work, it seems, that we're going to be doing on this, and then coming back before the full council to make a final determination of what the language is that we include in the PDF and whether or not we follow the council staff recommendation of removing the beyond 6 years funding for this particular project. Thanks.
Ms. McGuire, you were going to say something?
Thank you. I just wanted to perhaps recap some of the what we're hearing here today and just posit a suggestion. So I also just want to clarify that the contract for the electric buses at the school system does anticipate infrastructure in the current depot structure. So there's not a question of how the electric buses would be supported. The reason there was a question about putting infrastructure at Shady Grove was just because, again, we know that it's under this discussion. So just wanted to clarify that that's not a gap that needs to be filled per se. In terms of the language, certainly hearing the interest in understanding a more comprehensive solution, and as a number of council members have raised, the discussion around the bus depot is again very prospective and very speculative. This was one suggestion put forward, but certainly does not have other components that are ready for a more concrete discussion at this time, which is the reason that council staff suggested deferring the bus depot conversation to a future time when there is more known about the plan. So one suggestion would be that this could come back to the council next week with your other CIP items if the council would like to revisit language at that time. If that's the kind of additional review that the council and that Councilor Navarro had in mind, we could certainly bring back language reflecting the discussion that we've heard here today. We could bring that back next week if that's satisfactory.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of moving parts there that we need to reconcile so that we can see it on one sheet of paper so that it becomes a little bit more clear. I think that's a reasonable suggestion. And I particularly like what Councilmember Friedson just recommended. Since we are looking at this across the globe here, as opposed to just signaling out one community, because understandably it caused a lot of consternation for folks that felt that, they didn't have a chance to weigh in. So, and we are looking at a comprehensive solution, as was noted. So I think that's a good recommendation. Mr. Mia, did you want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to address Councilmember Cass's concern about the traffic issues. I think we can work with DGS to develop a cost estimate that would include a traffic study and include that in the facility planning as a bring-back item. So that's another option we can bring back to you.
Great. Yeah, we can include that too. Mr. Dice?
Just to follow on what Ms. Neum just said, we can work with council staff, come back next week, add to my list of scars, and come up with an approach that council might find acceptable. Again, this is a good ways out. We still need to develop a good program of requirements because all of the analysis to date has been based upon a variation of what exists now. So schools and the county need to sit down and develop what I would call perhaps a generic POR that is not necessarily reflective of a specific site. Mr. Katz should be happy about that. But it does give us a representative idea to the cost perspective. What would the shop actually look like? What does it have to be? 50,000 square feet, 30,000 square feet, whatever. because we don't want to assume that what exists now is in any way optimal or as efficient as modern technology and the fleet it would service would require. So certainly funding needs to take place for that element, the development of POR. Any site that we would hone in on would require and get a traffic study. That's just a standard course of action. But before we go there, certainly development of a POR that everyone can agree on and serves as the basis of what a depot actually would look like might be the next best step.
I think that's a good suggestion as well. Great, so we'll come back to this item. The Councilmember Rice had a comment regarding one of the other projects that we had laid out in the packet. So Councilmember Rice.
Thank you very much. And Naeem, I think you had mentioned it about lynching remembrance. I spoke with Jason Green over the weekend, who is now the chair, and was very concerned. I think there was some sort of mix-up maybe with the submission going to OMB, but I know it was a small amount, $50,000. Just I'm curious as to where we are with this, because we know this is an important program for all of us sitting up here on the dais, but also for the county in general. So just wanted to get a status check on that.
Yes, absolutely. So the county executive did include $50,000, as GO Chair Navarro noted. We actually had a discussion yesterday with DGS and OMB. The recommendation from that discussion is to actually create a separate new project and to move the $50,000 in the operating budget to that new CIP project. That way it's more clear as to what that project is and how it's funded. It's current revenue, so the color of money is the same, so it's a pretty easy move. So
Perfect.
That would be the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, and I totally neglected Councilmember Katz regarding the previous issue, I assume. I apologize.
That's perfectly all right. I probably spoke more on the other issue as well. It's my understanding that you're probably better off if I don't turn on my mic. But it's my understanding that the Victim Services Subcommittee, are you going to bring that up, or should I? You're going to bring it up, okay.
Yes, that's another late-breaking request, was to add a study to facility planning CIP for the, Greg, help me out if I get this wrong, it's the Consolidated Power-Based Violence Center. It would be located at the current Family Justice Center. DGS is not requesting any additional funding. The work can be absorbed within the current funding schedule in the facility planning CIP.
It's my understanding, and my chief of staff has been active in working on the subcommittee, but this is for an addition to enhance, I guess would be the right term for the Consolidated Family Justice Center. And as we all are in Montgomery County are very proud of that facility, but we need to have some planning projects associated with it. And if we could, there's no money associated with this, but if we could get this on the list, I think that would be the next proper step for this one. Is that, and hopefully it'll meet with my colleagues' agreement. Okay. I see a thumb up. I'll take one thumb as all thumbs. I mean, why not? Yeah. I mean, I've always said if you're winning, stop. Yeah. That counts for 3. Yeah. Very good. Thank you.
Great. And Councilmember Reamer.
And it's not at the current site. It's a new site. I have late breaking news too. It's a new site as well. So, okay. Thanks.
Thank you all. I just wanted to comment on the facility planning item for the Equal Justice Institute Memorial. And thanks to Councilmember Rice for raising that, and I was planning to do the same. And I want to thank him and Councilmember Joando for their support for the commission, which has been doing a great job. We've had some really powerful, amazing community engagement opportunities. I'll never forget the vision in my mind of the council office building will never be the same, having seen the projection on the side of this building for the old newspaper stories about the lynchings in Rockville. It was just an amazing evening. I know Councilmember Rice was there and others. And it was just the commission has been doing a marvelous job bringing this issue forward. The Maryland Lynching Commission has been doing an amazing job at the state level, but our county's commission has been doing a marvelous job. And one of the stories of this history is that on the property where the county council is today was once the Rockville jail, where I think it was Mr. Diggs was abducted from the jail. I apologize, I didn't have a chance to do the Mr. Randolph and Mr. Diggs Dorsey were both abducted from the jail and lynched within some distance of here. And it may not be this is the ultimate site, but what a site it would be for the memorial in partnership with the Equal Justice Institute's lynching memorial. So the idea here is to begin that planning process to provide some funding for the county in collaboration with the commission. And DGS you've been aware of this conversation. We appreciated that. And I think it just got stuck in the wrong file folder in the executive's budget, but we'll put it in the right one. And we'll work together as we proceed and initiate this. And as we get going, we should do some kind of a community level kickoff. But the commission, our commission, has sent in letters, which are in the packet, of course. So look forward to proceeding with this, and thank you thank you everyone for your support.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other colleagues that wish to speak. Was that it for these items on the agenda for today?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so then with that, we look forward to picking up the Bus Depot discussion next week with the consolidated discussion points and recommendations to review. And with that, we are adjourned this afternoon. Thank you.